welcome everybody to the Visiting Author Series by the Friends of the Robeson County Library. I'm Joey Mitchell. I am the president of the Friends of the Library, and the Friends of the Library is a nonprofit charitable group formed to support libraries in their communities. Support from the Friends groups may be financial, political, or cultural. Groups are separate from the libraries, and they support the libraries they support and are made up of volunteers. Generally, groups are structured, handle finances, and work closely with the library management. If you want to join, please join the Friends of the Library. If you want to join us, you can go to the Robeson County Library website, and there's a place there where you can go to PayPal and you can make a donation and become a member. We have a big annual meeting every year where we bring in a speaker, and it's a real big to-do for Robeson County and for the library. And please join us, be a friend. That's going to be our bumper sticker for 2020. Be a friend. And tonight is we didn't have an event in December, so tonight is Maggie Thom from British Columbia. It's going to be a video event. And February 20th, if things go according to our calendar, Wendy Webb from Wisconsin is going to be a live video. And on March the 20th, Patrick Parker, a local author, P.D. Parker, is going to be here in person to present his new publication. And just as a note, from the 17th to the 19th, his book on Amazon will be free as an ebook on Kindle. Correct? Mm-hmm. All right. And then on April 17th, Alara Shoup, a local author and a member of the board of the Friends of the Library, will be here to tell us about what she's been working on. And tonight we have we've got a double bill here now, whether you know or not. You're going to get we got a lot of boom for your bucks tonight because we have Glenna Mageau. She's published over 20 books along with many short stories. She grew up in a house full of books, often making a weekly trip to the library to get more. Reading was her go-to when it was too cold outside to play. She started experimenting with writing at a young age, letting her imagination take her away on many adventures. But she didn't stop there. She's always had a lot of real-life adventures with her family: whitewater rafting, skydiving, traveling, mountain hiking, kayaking. Now she writes to ensure that you get to go on thrilling adventures yourself. Under her own name, Glenna writes nonfiction. Two of her books are about helping families get to know more about their parents' journeys and stories. They are called Do You Know Your Dad's Story? And the other one is Do You Know Your Mom's Story? Once a week I think about something that I wished I'd ask my mother or father. Whether it's who owns the farm next to a farm over there, or whether it's lemon juice or vinegar you put in the barbecue sauce, or just something. And so I wish I'd had something to prompt me before they passed away to ask us some questions. But and so that's her nonfiction, and using a pen name, which is Maggie Thom. Glenna writes suspense thrillers with twists and turns that will keep you flipping the pages. And just like the Friends of the Library, she says whether she is writing fiction or nonfiction, her goal is to get you to reading and to share your love of reading. Her motto is escape to read and read to escape. Some of her fiction are the Caspian Wine series and the Twisted Deception series and the Prairie Crime series and the Family Heir series. So with that, will you please help me welcome Glenna Mageau.
Hi, Glenna. It's so good to see you again. I have a number of questions for you about your writing. And the very first one is what inspired you to begin writing?
That's a big question. I honestly don't know. I know I always had a fascination for words, such that, as a kid, I used to cut words out of books, and ooh, my mom was not happy with me. Um, so I'm not really sure what got me started, but I loved books. I just found them so fascinating, the stories. And so I just started experimenting at a young age of, trying to put together a story. And yeah, so somewhere in my youth, in my childhood, and we used to go to the library every Saturday, like clockwork. It was as kids, and then all through school, I was in the library getting books, reading books. So somewhere in that reading, it sparked my intrigue for writing. So yeah, I love the library. I think it's the most amazing place to get lost and get found, and amazing.
Well, I'm very happy that you have been writing all these years because I own a number of your books, as you know. And one book is called Do You Know Your Mom's Story? And it's 365 questions you need to ask her. And I also own Do You Know Your Dad's Story? The Unasked Questions. And I have to tell you that both books have really led to a lot of discoveries for us. And I'd like to know what inspired you to write those.
Oh, there was a number of things. And really, I guess it goes back to my mom and dad. When my dad passed away, I realized how much of his life I didn't know. I mean, there was things he would tell us like, oh, I used to do this as a kid, or I used to do that, but there were so many gaps in his life. And plus there is those things that he told us, and I've forgotten them. It's like, did he say this or did he do that? I don't remember. I didn't write it down. I didn't really delve into it, which is something we just don't do. And then at one point, I got really interested in women and their stories, that grew up in a time when women weren't working, women weren't getting educated. And I started interviewing those women and hearing their stories, and then finding out they'd never talked with their families about it or told them very little about their journeys. And I found them just so incredible. And so that made me really sad and realize that there was a huge gap there. And early on in my career, I also worked with seniors, and I just saw a lot of disconnect. And we just do that. We know our parents, we see them often or not, we talk to them, but we never ask about their lives or about who they really are. And I just found that really sad. I thought, okay, there's something missing. People just don't know how to ask, and the parents often don't know how to tell about their lives, right? They feel judged, they feel whatever it may be, they just don't talk about it. But there is a way to bridge that gap. So that was probably the biggest influence as to why I wrote both of those books.
Did you discover anything after they were published?
Oh, huge, huge, especially with my mom. Thankfully, I had started writing the one with my mom before she passed. So I got a lot more of her story, and we really healed a lot of our relationship. I mean, it was always good, but again, I just never asked a lot of stuff. And my mom was one of those women who got educated and worked, before the time kind of thing. And so I really got to understand her story. But one of the biggest things I found is that people love it. And especially the seniors, like even if families aren't talking with their parents, I've had a lot of older women say to me, oh my God, I pick it up, I open it, and I read a question, and the memories just come back. Like it's just like, oh my God, we used to do this. And things I haven't thought of in years. And to me, that was such a beautiful gift. I thought, oh my God, that I mean, it was kind of a thought, but not really when I wrote it. It was more about connecting and making sure that the kids got the parents' story. But to hear that a lot of people are using it as just sort of a way to trigger memories, like to bring up things that they used to do. And so I absolutely love that there's that bonus to it, I guess you would say.
Is that how you would suggest that people begin talking to their parents?
I don't think it's a bad idea. Sometimes just giving it to them and saying, flip through it. Again, there's people that will and people that won't. Probably the biggest thing that I suggest, and it all depends on relationship, and how willing they are to talk. But is when you're doing things, or you bring something, say, hey, did you ever have stuff like this when you were a kid? And something that is, you know, hopefully not a trigger, because sometimes, we don't know what are some things that might upset them, might not. But, like if you're out having pizza, like, oh, did you ever have pizza as a kid? Like, was that a thing? If so, like, did you make it? And you start just sort of getting into questions, and the more you start doing the little things like that, the easier it is to pick up the book and say, hey, let's go through some of these questions. What do you think? Right?
I love that. And especially pizza. I would never have thought to ask my mom and dad, and I bet they never had it as a
No.
kid. Well, what do you hope that people will get from those two books?
I think the biggest thing, I guess, is connection, and helping people to tell their stories and to know that their lives have mattered, no matter where they have ended up. Their lives have mattered, and that they have done some amazing things. Too often we get tangled up in all that's gone wrong in our lives, or how tough it is, or what have you. And I think too often, and women in particular, especially older women, that grew up in the 30s, 40s, 50s, um, don't understand how important their lives have been. And, because often one thing I heard many times from older women is, oh, I didn't do anything, but you worked, or you raised, a number of kids, you lived on a farm. Of course you worked hard. You did, some cool stuff, or, they've done some incredible knitting, or made some things, or they went and traveled. Any of it matters. And so I guess for me, it's just helping people understand their lives matter, and getting people talking about their lives, and the good stuff in it, right? It's not about bringing up the ugly and reliving and rehashing that. It's about looking at our lives differently and going, hey, I did some of this stuff. This is cool. Yeah, people weren't doing it back when I did it, or, I did it differently than everybody else did, or I just did it. It doesn't matter, right? It's just, yeah, trying to help people to see things a little differently and to share.
I love that. What formats are your books available in?
So both of the books are in ebook and in um, paperback, but I also have on my website, and actually I'm creating a new one, but so that you can do like an e-journal. So the books are set up such that there's questions, and then there's space to answer them. And then there's blank pages at the end. So that, people can ask the questions, jot down the stuff. But like I said, I do have one e-journal format. I'm working on another one. So I'm hoping to have that ready in the new year. Especially for moms anyway, right now. Dads, I'm still working on. But so then, people can do it electronically, and then they can decide to print it or not, whichever.
I love that. And where can we find the books? You mentioned your website, and are there other, and tell us the name of your website, by the way.
Okay, it's glennamageau.com. And so you can find all the links on there, but the books are available through all online bookstores. You can also go to your local bookstore and ask them to bring it in. You can go to your local library and ask them to bring it in, to get it from there. So yeah, it's available pretty much everywhere around the world. You should be able to access it.
Oh, that sounds great. Are you planning on writing more in that genre?
Well, I have been asked, and actually I was hoping to have last year, but lots of things happen. But I was asked about one about siblings. We again, siblings, we talk all the time. But we never, there's always things that still shock me with my sisters in particular. It's like, really, you did that? I didn't know that, or I don't remember, right? So there's lots of things that we just never think to talk about. So I am working on that. No idea as to when that will come out, but I am working on one to start asking siblings questions, because to me it's a little bit different approach than the others. So it's challenging me a little bit more, but I'm finding it very interesting. So yeah, so I am doing another one on that theme.
Well, I'm going to segue just a moment because I also own, as you know, a number of your fiction books, and they're suspense. And I'd love for you to tell our audience about them. And one of the themes in particular that I have always been curious about is that you have a series that is based on identities, stolen identities, or intrigue with identities. How did you decide to write an entire series about that?
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I write under a pen name Maggie Thom, and I write suspense thrillers. And so the series that you're talking about, I think, is the one, Twisted Deception. And so it's a 5-book series, and it is about, let's just say the story starts 35 years ago, in a foster home with 8 girls that are growing up together, and they all scatter after they leave there. And now, 35 years later, their lives are starting to unravel. Some things from the past are coming back, and it's tangled up with um, either their children or younger generation, I'll say. And so that's one of the series. Another one that also sort of deals with that is the Caspian Wine series, and it's a 3-book series. And in that one, yeah, the very first book, the girl was kidnapped as a baby, but she doesn't learn about it till she's like 30 years old. And so her story unravels, and people are telling her, you're not who you think you are. And the woman who raised her, who she thought was her mom, has passed away. So she can't go back and ask her. So now she's got to go back through their lives to try and figure out what's the truth and who's chasing them and who's trying to prevent her from discovering the truth. So there's 3 books in that series as well. So all of my books are suspense thrillers. They're all about strong women who are caught up in situations trying to figure out who they are and what's going on and figure out who the bad guys are. So
I love all of your books, and I particularly love the twists and turns in them. How do you get all of these ideas?
well, that's a great question. I mean, I've been a reader since I was a young child, so reading has definitely been a great thing for opening the imagination. But honestly, nowadays, anything, I could be watching a TV and I'll see someone set down a cup and I'll think, oh my God, what would happen if that was, grandma's famous cup and it broke? And like ideas, I just play with them in my mind a lot. And I only take a tiny percentage of the ones that I play with in my mind and actually write out stories. And for me, I'm what I call a pantser. And so I have tried plotting out stories and I cannot do it. I spend a ton of time doing that and I don't write. So I'm one of these people who gets an idea, and usually I get a whole chapter. I'll write a whole chapter in my head. I'll write it down. And then I play with it. Where's it going to go? And I don't even know really the whole story. It's just sort of, here's a chapter. It might be in the middle. It might be the end. It might be the beginning. And then from there, I start developing the story and just start, figuring out where it's going and writing. Now, one of the key things, which probably would be easier if I was a person who could plot out a story, but I spend a lot of time after I've written it going through and asking it questions like, okay, does this make sense? And what would make this more intriguing? Like what twist? You talked about the twists and turns. I love putting them in, but there's also, kind of a fine line of too many and just enough, right? So I try and make sure I've balanced that and make sure that everything is tied up by the end of that story, right? So that you have the answers that you need as to what's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, it amazes me, the twists and turns and also the characters. You have some really intriguing characters in your books. How do you get the ideas for those people?
Well, I don't want to say real life people, but some of them are based on real life people. But here's the truth. None of my characters are ever based on one person. It's kind of like, I take characteristics from this person and then I take characteristics from this person. I kind of put them together and I keep doing that until I feel like I've got a full-fledged person that might be based on 20 people, characteristics from 20 people. And probably one of the best compliments I ever had, one of my books, Tainted Waters, I had a woman come up to me and she says, Oh my God. She said, Sam, she said, that's me. That person is exactly me. And I said, well, I don't know you. And it's seriously, I didn't base it on you, but it was a very cool compliment because it was it. I had no idea who the woman was, but she said, that is absolutely me, that person. So that
Well,
was really
they're all very believable characters. How many books have you written so far?
well, actually, I just finished my 20th. So I
Uh,
have 17 fiction and I have currently three nonfiction. Those are the published ones. There's probably about another 50 or more that are, just hiding somewhere, but I haven't published them. They need a lot of work. So but I do have 20 published.
well, congratulations. Do you prefer writing the fiction books or nonfiction?
I absolutely like writing both, but I would say the fiction probably does dominate my mind. It's a great way to escape. In fact, that's my motto is, well, I have two mottos. One is read to escape and escape to read, and my other one is write to escape and escape to write. So yeah, I absolutely love writing and creating and what have you. But yeah, both really intrigue me. I think they're amazing. But I would say fiction probably at this point.
How long have you been writing?
Oh, pretty much my whole life. Like the first book I ever wrote, I think I was 9 years old. Not that I ever did anything with it and I actually threw it out, which is too bad because now I would love to see it. But I've been writing off and on pretty much my whole life, but I didn't really do anything with it until about 12 years ago. I published my first novel, Captured Lies. And then since then, I've just been going steady with the writing. So,
Well, I always look forward to each book as it comes out. And I'd like to know what is the next book coming out and what are you working on now?
well, I just finished the book. It's called Collision Course, and it'll be coming out in the new year. I haven't quite got a date, still working on the cover and getting it kind of finalized. But yeah, it'll be out in the probably spring 2025. So yeah, I'm quite excited about it. It is going to be the third book in my Prairie Crime Thriller series, which I have set in a fictional place in Alberta. It's actually near where I grew up. It's an actual real place, but there's nothing there. So I created a whole town, and so it's Connemara, Alberta. But I created a whole town, a whole area. So
You know, that's another thing that I love about your fiction is I don't know that much about Canada, but I'm learning all about it through your books. And you really bring these settings to life, you know, from the big cities to these very rural areas. How do you decide where to set them?
that's a great question. Yeah, the first series, the Caspian Wine series, that one is set in real places across Canada. And that one just really, I'm not even 100% sure what inspired the whole across Canada, because there's a number of places that, from where she grew up, which was Calgary, and then she was living in Victoria, and then she was back in Calgary for her mom's funeral, and then she's in Ontario, because that is where Caspian Wine Distilleries is, which is kind of the key to this whole series. So I'm not 100% sure, other than I was connected to each of those places. And they're all, very beautiful cities, places in Canada. And I think when I was writing those, it was to help people, I guess, see a little more of Canada. Some of my other books are in fictional places, but the other series, the Twisted Deception series, it is based on Vancouver Island. So it is also some real places in Canada. So yeah, and then like I said, this new series, the Prairie Crime Thriller series, I really debated about setting it in a real town or having a fictional town. And I just Connemara is a very dear place to be. I have lots of memories of what it used to look like. And like I said, there's absolutely not that there ever was lots there. There used to be a lake, an elevator, train tracks, and then a couple houses that are now gone. But now there's nothing. Like none of that is there. So I thought, what a great location to build a town and build an area. And so anyway, so that's been kind of fun to do.
Now, You've moved a couple of times since we've been communicating. Where are you located now?
I'm in Alberta. I'm back in Alberta. Yeah, so back in the cold weather. I was out on Vancouver Island for a number of years, but I have currently moved back to Alberta. So, yeah.
Do you have any advice for other writers?
You know, whether you're a writer or a creative person, whatever, the biggest thing I'm going to tell you is do it. Just do it. Forget about all the rules. Forget about everything you're told about how you should, and you should write this down, and you should be doing it this way. You should plot it out. You shouldn't plot it out. You should, it's whatever works for you. And you're really not going to know until you get started, until you get going. The biggest thing is be kind to yourself. Stop beating yourself up. Stop telling yourself your story is crap. Anything you write down, anything you create can be fixed, adjusted, what have you. I guarantee you, even now after publishing 19 books, going on my 20th, that they don't start out good. And that I spend a lot of time editing, rewriting, fixing them, making the stories good. So remember that. Get it down on paper, however that needs to be. Whether you handwrite it, whether you type it, whether you speak it and get it onto paper. Then worry about creating the story and talk to your story. Ask it questions. Too often people, sort of sit back and go, God, I don't know what it needs. And for me, it's talking to my story. It's talking to the characters. Like, okay, what would you really do? What would you sound like in this situation? Would you really do that? So, and don't be scared to cut stuff. I used to be terrified of cutting. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'll never write something so good, but this really doesn't go with the story. So I'd cut it, I'd paste it on another page, and I'd save that page because, oh my God, I might never write that good again. And it's not true. It's so not true. And of course, the more you write, the better you get, the more you understand what you need to do to get your story down and to make it good. Explore that. Don't be scared of it.
Well, your books have been great from the very beginning. I remember the very first book I read was probably your first fiction, and I was just hooked from the very first page. Where can we learn more about you?
So for my fiction books, you can go to maggiethom.com. And again, the books are in ebook. Majority of them in paperback, not all of them yet. I'm working on that 2025. I'm hoping to have all of them in paperback. But if you go to maggiethom.com, you can find all the links, more information about me, about the books, but also any online bookstores, Apple, Barnes and Noble, Google, Amazon. And you can also go to your bookstore, ask them to bring them in. You can go to your library. They're pretty much available everywhere.
I have to ask you because you do write under two names. Your real name, Glenna Mageau, and Maggie Thom. And I'm curious where Maggie Thom came from and why you decided to use a pseudonym.
So it really, the Maggie Thom actually came about because as a reader, I'm one of those people who I like an author who sort of stays in one genre. And nowadays, that's not necessarily the case, but I came from sort of old school, I guess you'd say. And I like when I find an author I like that I know I grab a book and I know that it's in the genre that I really like. And again, I read a ton of genres, but I still seem to like it segmented. So for me, and it was also because at the time I was writing other stuff under my name, and I just thought I need that division. Like I need this to be my nonfiction and this to be my fiction. So that's sort of how it came about. And then Maggie Thom actually became sort of a mix of taking my married last name and shortening it, changing it a bit, and taking my oh my goodness, my maiden name and shortening it, cutting it up. And yeah, Maggie Thom was born out of it. So it was a lot of playing around, but yeah, it has a lot of meaning for me. So
Well, that sounds great. I understand that your books are currently on sale right now. Is that correct?
yes, I have a few books on sale currently right now, actually coming up. There's Concealed Inheritance will be on sale. One of my fiction books is coming up on sale right away. And then a few others. And then Do You Know Your Mom's Story and Do You Know Your Dad's Story? Yes, are going to be on sale for 99 cents. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, you should be able to pick up the ebook for that price. Yes.
Wow, that's a real bargain. Is there anything else that you would like our audience to know about you?
Well, I feel very honored to have been able to be asked to do this interview. So thank you very much. And I'm very honored. Our friendship with Patricia, we met years ago online. We've never met in person. But
We have to
I
fix that at some point.
do too. I agree. But we have this amazing connection and we've been emailing for years. I don't even know how many years ago we actually started, probably 10 plus, I'm guessing.
Yeah, at
Uh,
least.
So yeah, so again, the biggest thing is get started with your craft, start writing. I always came from this place of, oh my God, I'm not good enough, or oh my God, what are people going to think? All of those kind of goofy things. Um, Put those aside, know that they're normal, know that the whole feeling like you're a fraud thing, that's all normal. Just put it aside and go, yeah, okay, it's good. I can move on. Do your craft, do your thing, write, get it out there. Your story needs to be told. Everybody tells stories in a different way, and your voice needs to be told. And you need to do it for you. That's probably the biggest thing.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to do this interview. I always thoroughly enjoy chatting with you, and I always learn more about your writing and your books. I can't wait for the next one.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I feel, again, very honored to have been asked to do this interview, and I'm absolutely thrilled. Thank you.
We'll have to get you to North Carolina sometime.
I agree. I agree.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you.